speaking of too much money to play with, let's talk about the NFL and having a good time
Oh,
with good.
Antonio
That's
Brown.
yeah, and Antonio Brown. There's been lots of stuff that's been happening in the
Yeah.
NFL. We're gonna have this. This is gonna be a little bit. This is gonna be a fun segment. So we'll talk a little bit of this week, and then we're gonna get into mid-season. At this point, who's your award winners? And I got a whole list. I got my whole list. So we're gonna talk about that. Um, but let's first. I want to start off with how about them Dolphins? Okay. Let's talk about how good the Dolphins have been on this 5 game win streak that no one's, I think people are just now starting to talk about since they beat the Chargers. And I obviously, it's the Chargers. So it wasn't like it was like, oh, but like, still got Justin Herbert. Offense isn't the issue. Um, I think the Dolphins look really stinking good. And the main reason is Brian Flores. Well, I mean, Tua helps, but like Brian Flores has put quite the team together, and it reminds me a lot of the Indianapolis Colts. Let me explain why. When you look at the Dolphins and what they've done in the last 2 years, it's very similar to what the Colts did when Grigson left. Okay? After Grigson left, they bring in new GM, they bring in new head coach, immediately completely rebuild team. They trade away a lot of their notable players. Tannehill leaves, Minka Fitzpatrick leaves, like all these guys, they dip. You know what I'm saying? They get rid of them. They want out. Everyone thinks they're tanking for Tua. They end up getting Tua, but not in the way that you think they would because they still won 4 games. They still tried really hard, especially with Ryan Fitzmagic, man. I mean, they weren't messing
Sir.
around last year. And I think what we're seeing this year is a very well coached team that works very hard together on all phases of football, which is very characteristic of how the Colts play and how Chris Ballard built the team around character instead of talent. Cough, cough, the Cleveland Browns. Um, I feel like it's really paying off right now for them. I mean, honestly, they've looked good in all phases. All phases. Obviously, I don't think they're the Chiefs. I'm not saying they're the Chiefs or the Buccaneers or anyone like that where they got that kind of talent yet to make a push that deep. But I think we got to watch out for those matchups. I'm pretty sure the Dolphins and the Bills play Week 17, which will be a big game because they're in the same division, and right now the Dolphins are hot on the Bills' tails for that division lead. So, yeah, let's hit me with it. What are y'all's thoughts after Week 10?
So for me, my game to watch week 10, it's going to be a little bit different. I kind of want to go in a different spot, is Seahawks versus Cardinals. Okay?
Oh, you mean this
So-
upcoming week?
Yes, this upcoming week.
Okay.
Not this past week. I'm looking forward for a little bit. So these are two teams that are 6-3. Right now, the Cardinals would be in because of a tiebreaker. They are also tied with the Rams. All three teams would be able to make the playoffs if the season ended today.
Tight division.
Tight division, yes. We have 3 teams tied at 6-3 because of tiebreakers. The Cardinals end up at the top of the division, then the Rams, then the Seahawks. The Rams and the Seahawks would get both of the wild card spots. 2 of the wild card spots right now. So this coming up, in this game that's coming up, we're gonna see 2 of the top 3 offensives in the NFL right now. At number 3, we have the Seahawks with 405.9 yards per game. Then we have at number 2, we're not going to see them in this game. We have the Chiefs at 409.0 yards per game. And then at number 1, we have the Cardinals with 425.4 yards per game.
Ridiculous.
They are 16.4 yards ahead of the Chiefs, 19.5 yards ahead of the Seahawks in yards per game. So obviously 2 very high flying offenses. We're probably going to see a lot of scoring in this game, and probably it's going to turn into these high scoring games. Everybody talks about being an offensive battle. I think they end up being defensive battles of
In a way.
which defense can get a stop.
Yeah,
just
right.
one.
Any sort of stops.
So when we look at these defenses, we see a very different story. The Cardinals have the 18th 18th best defense in the league. So just below half. They have been allowing 370 yards per game,
which is bad.
is bad. But the Seahawks are dead last. They're averaging. They're allowing 480 yards per game.
Wow.
So what I think we're gonna see is a Cardinals team who's coming off a win, and a Seahawks team who's coming off of 2 straight losses. And they're both this. If in my opinion, this game is going to determine how this division pans out.
Mm-hmm. I don't think the Rams can make a push through the rest of the year consistently to make enough noise at this point in time. And
it'll be difficult. They might be able to get a wild card spot, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
If the Seahawks want to make a push, they have to win this game.
They have to fix their woes on defense.
Exactly. This game is make or break for them. It will be the 3rd consecutive loss. They'll fall out of the playoff picture. And with that defense falling apart that way, they're not going to be able to climb back in.
Especially with teams like the Vikings on a hot streak.
Yeah, and if the Cardinals lose this game, they lose their momentum. They start faltering on their playoff picture. If they win this, they start clinching that playoff picture. So I think that's going to be crucial to see who this game will shape quite a bit of the playoff picture, especially considering that right now, 3 teams from that division would make making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And all of them are going to turn out affected by this game. So I think this is a big game to watch this week.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think there's a good chunk of interesting games this week. It's gonna be really fun to watch. We have, like you said, the Cardinals and Seahawks. We have the Titans and Ravens. They're both 6-3. They're both looking to come back this season.
Right, because especially after them both struggling recently. Both Titans and Ravens have not looked particularly good recently.
Watch. And I'm really excited to see that one. Then we have Chiefs and Raiders as well, which I wouldn't sleep on the Raiders on this one. They can really be dangerous at times, you know.
We already saw they can beat the Chiefs. It wouldn't surprise me if they did it again.
And then we have the Rams and Bucks. So these are a lot of key matchups here. It's really going to be a make it break it. Who's ready to step it up and start making these playoff pushes.
Right.
Coming up soon.
As we're getting later in the season, I mean, we only got 8 weeks left, 7 weeks left, and obviously we're starting to. Some teams are out of it. You know, you got teams like the Jets, the Jaguars. They're out. They're in it in their own way. They're racing for a different type of first.
Yeah.
Tank bowl.
Yeah.
I actually have a very interesting thought. I think that the week 1 game between the Jaguars and the Colts will be the most impactful game of the entire season. Let me explain why.
Okay.
That Jags win is their only win. Okay? If the Jets continue their ways, they will not win a game for the rest of the year.
Perfect season.
And the Jags will have that 1 win, giving the Jets the first pick to take Mr. Trevor Lawrence. Now, if you're the Jags, you can still take Justin Fields. He's cool, but he's not Trevor Lawrence. Let's be real. At this point in time, as a scout, I think we all know that Trevor Lawrence is his own beast, the Greek god. Okay, he's just built different, you know. Look at that hair. It's not important, but look at that hair. Okay, he has shown absolutely ridiculous signs of athleticism, arm talent, and strength, and he's just crazy. Okay, he's been crazy since high school. This is nothing new. But the Jags will not be there to get him because they accidentally beat the Colts week 1. And on top of that, let's say that week 1 loss ends up. Let's say the Titans make another push. They start winning games again. That 1 loss that the Colts had to the Jaguars will put them 1 game back on the Titans, and boom, we're at, then we don't win the division. Maybe we're not in the playoffs, depending on. I mean, the AFC is tight right now. There have been you got a lot of strong AFC teams this year with no clear teams in the NFC who's the best, whereas the AFC have a lot of very clear dominant teams. I think it's very important to look at the impact that Jaguars game had, and we didn't even realize it at the time. We didn't even realize it. Neither did the Jaguars.
There's 6 teams in the AFC right now that are tied with the Colts at 6-3, and if you add the 3 teams that have better records, you have 9 teams that are above 6-3 or better.
Yeah, that's crazy. Um, let's get into some of these midseason awards. Let's talk about who we think at this point in time deserves these awards. So I think obviously MVP is the obvious one. We'll get to MVP. Let's talk about these rookies. Okay, let's talk about these rookies. Here are my two rookies. Okay, for the offensive player of the year, I know I'm a little biased, but Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, has been the most consistent and helpful to his team. I understand that Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert have been good as quarterbacks, but let's look past the fact that they're a quarterback and they're expected to do that. They're not winning games even though they're playing well. And at the end of the day, if you're not winning games, you're not helping your team enough. Justin Jefferson has been leading this Vikings offense back to relevance along with Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen. I think you have to talk about how good he looks, especially since and how deep this wide receiver draft class was. I think it's pretty clear who the best is. Sorry, Chase Claypool. I ain't seen enough out of you. You haven't been consistent enough. You had 1 4-touchdown game. You don't got the yards. You don't got the touchdowns. Rest in peace, your Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign. I think it comes down to 3 people. It has to be Burrow, Herbert, and Jefferson. And right now, at this pace, I think Jefferson should get it. Will he? Probably not, because they're quarterbacks, and quarterbacks get the spotlight. That's just the reality.
I think Herbert's going to get it. The only reason I say that is because the Chargers are among 3 teams who are within 1-score games through the entire season, despite them being 1 or 2 and
They're
whatever
2 and
they
7.
are. Yeah, 2 and 7. Despite that, they're also within 1-score games.
Yep.
Well, you might not say that that's good enough for a quarterback to only win 2 games as good as he's playing, which I understand that, but I am saying that they are still in all of these games, and they all are they might as well flip a coin and see who wins. Like
Right.
they're still in there, so I think Herbert is probably going to beat out Burrow if it does come down to either of those 2.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what Tony said there, another thing that you got to consider about Justin Herbert, apart from him, all those losses being very close, he also this Sunday became the first rookie in NFL history to have at least 2 touchdown passes in 6 consecutive games. So, yeah, his team isn't necessarily producing, but I feel saying that he's not helping his team enough is a bit of a stretch
He's throwing
considering
picks,
the
though.
production. Yes, correct. He's throwing picks. That's something that needs to correct. He's a rookie. He's a rookie, to be fair. I don't get me
Justin
wrong.
Jefferson hasn't thrown any picks. That's all I'm saying.
I see what you're saying, but I feel that Justin Herbert has a very, very solid case right now.
I just have to say, Justin Herbert only has 6 picks in all of his games that he did lose. So, I mean, that's a very low number of
That's
picks.
fair.
So, I mean,
He don't got that clutch gene yet, though. He's got those Charger
it
genes.
still is 6 picks. We wish it was lower, but we all know that that's a lot to ask of really any quarterback, let
Very
alone
true.
a rookie. So,
Let's talk about the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and in this case, there's a lot of conversation about who this should be, because there hasn't been a clear standout, save like a couple of years ago with Darius Leonard. I think it was pretty clear that Darius Leonard was the Rookie of the Year, unless you were a Cowboys fan and you were crazy and you thought Leighton Vander Esch was somehow better. If you were that person, I'm so sorry that you don't understand football.
Dang.
Just being real. But I think in this year, once again, totally not biased, but I think you got to talk about Julian Blackmon, and I say that very genuinely. Now, obviously, I think a safety is going to win it this year, because the other person that's being talked about right now is Antoine Winfield Jr. from Minnesota for the Bucks. He's also been very strong as in his rookie year, and he's played a lot of snaps, and he's played pretty consistently. But here's my thing. Julian Blackmon has made the big plays when they have counted. Okay, and I think that's very key because at the end of the day, the best defensive players are the big play defensive players because if you can make those big plays, you are completely throwing the game on its back. I think that's why people like Darius Leonard were able to stand out so much because of his big play capability. Picks, sacks, fumbles, whatever. You know what I mean? Tackles for loss. If you can make that stuff at the end of the day, that's what matters because you're helping your team way more than like, ooh, I tackled him for a 5-yard gain. I'm so good at football. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, okay, that's nice. You can tackle. That's why we drafted you. Whereas Julian Black, two huge picks in the fourth quarter. One against the Bears, one to steal the comeback against the Bengals while they were on the drive to try to score and take the lead. That's a rookie, man. He has great coverage, too. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's in like third in the league in QBR when he's targeted at with 40, which again for a rookie free safety is unheard of. I mean, out of Utah. I mean, it wasn't like he was he was a third-round draft pick, man. Like he's not Jamal Adams. We didn't draft him 6th overall to be some absolute stud. Like it wasn't like we were expecting anything insane out of him. Obviously, I mean, it's Chris Ballard. He knows everything. He knew he was going to be Rookie of the Year. But that's besides the point.
I do think, just to add to this while you're still going, I think Julian Blackman, I think, is in the lead by about 100 points, based on just like sheer odds, just not out of stats or anything, but just the odds of him getting it. I think he's winning by like 100 or 200.
Well, at this rate, he's surpassing Winfield Jr. Like at the beginning of the year, Winfield had a nice pace, but then Blackman started starting as Malik Hooker got hurt, and he's just zooming. I mean, we saw him, that game against the Titans really helped him as well. Getting on national television really helped his case because we were like, oh yeah, that guy's good. You know, it always helps when you get to be on the big stage.
And to think he did this coming off an injury.
Oh yeah,
where it lowered the draft stock by a lot, and we picked him up, and he comes back in, and he's already making huge plays. He's becoming really dependable.
Yeah.
As in, this defense is really trusting him with all the duties. He's everywhere around the field. He is going up for the big plays. Even when he doesn't get the interception, he's there tipping the ball up. Like, I just love what I'm seeing from him.
He reminds me a lot of Harrison Smith, in the way that he ball hawks and the way he roams. He obviously doesn't have the IQ just yet of Harrison Smith, but Harry the Hitman's been in the league a long time now, so that's a little different. Just in his game plan and the way he's a big hitter. You know, he's not scared to hit you. We've seen that already. He's good. He can ball hawk all day. You know, he'll jump a ball and find success. That's how he's gotten his picks. He's caused picks like in his first game. He tipped that pass for Kari Willis to get that interception. I believe that was against the Vikings. And yeah, I mean honestly, he just comes up big. You know, when the ball goes in his direction, good things happen for the most part. I mean obviously no one's perfect, but like if we're being more often than not, I see good things, not bad things. So
yeah, I think Marcus brings up a good point. He just came off an ACL injury, and we all hear the Chris Ballards. You know, it takes at least 12 months to fully recover from an ACL injury, and it's been. When he started playing, it was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something like that. And so I think it just proves that Malik Hooker wasn't where he needed to be after his ACL. And I think it justifies his reduced role and maybe goodbyes from the team. Which
I really do feel bad. Like Malik Hooker was supposed to be, you know, that safety that that was going to be. Yes, exactly. And his injuries and it just got to him. And I really do feel bad. And I do feel like I don't think he's going to be a Colt after this year.
I don't think he is either.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks. But to what Jaron said about Harrison Smith, I think that you make a good point. I do agree with you, but I think to be able to make that comparison, we need to see more versatility from Blackman
Hmm.
because Harrison Smith plays all over the field.
Very
He
true.
doesn't just necessarily play like deep safety. Harrison Smith can play up against the line and do inside zones and stuff like that. Kind of like
Matthew?
well,
Tyrann Mathieu?
that's a good comparison. But I was thinking more old heads, like a Ed Reed.
Ah, okay. Or
I'm not
Troy
saying Harrison
Polamalu.
Smith. Yeah, I'm not saying that those are comparable people. I'm just saying that they had comparable roles.
Yeah.
all
No,
I'm saying.
I get you. I get you a lot. Let's keep
I
going.
think
Oh,
I was
sorry.
gonna say really quickly a name that I kind of want to throw in there, more of a not necessarily as obvious. It would be Jalen Johnson, the cornerback for
yeah,
the
the Bears
Bears.
corner. Yeah.
Yeah. Just pulling up his passes defensed. He is currently in third in the NFL with 13,
Yeah.
and is projected to end up at where is it at? He's projected to have 21 by the end of the season, which is a pretty
Yeah.
solid number.
Well, and I think a
For a
big thing is
rookie,
as a rookie is you get targeted a lot. You know, they want to test you.
Definitely, they
And
do want
he's
to test you, so
Proven
his
that.
pace will probably go down. But he has time and time again proven that, hey, you throw it this way, I'm gonna make a play.
Continuing off of that on getting targeted a lot, let's talk about the comeback player of the year. Now, obviously, I think you got to talk about Alex Smith, okay, who just threw for 390 yards in his first start in over 700 days. Good for him, man. I know they lost, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
because he
awesome.
plays for the Washington football team. Poor guy.
They still make the playoffs though.
they can still make the
Hey,
playoffs.
man.
Playoff
Hey,
Smith,
man.
bro.
We'll talk about it in a sec. Don't worry.
So, but my comeback player of the year is Xavier Rhodes. All right, and I've talked about this with you guys, but obviously this is the show where we get to talk about this to the people. Okay, and Xavier Rhodes has been fantastic this year. And if you had said that 2 years ago, they would be like, yeah, that makes sense. It's Xavier Rhodes. He's a first-team All-Pro corner who's locked down on everyone they put him up against. But for the people that have been watching football recently in the last year or two, Xavier Rhodes has not been that shutdown corner. In fact, he was one of the worst in the NFL, and he allowed 80%, if not higher, just over 80% completion percentage last year on targets, which is very bad. That is extremely bad. 80%, bro. That includes balls that can't even be caught. Okay, that is not good. That is not good. So, and he also had lots of penalties with like pass interference, holding, all the above. It was terrible. So obviously, when the Colts picked him up, we picked him up cheap. And it's worked out extremely well as he's completely developed into another big body, lockdown corner who hits you and he'll hit you hard. And he matches up really well with Rocky Sin on the other side. I mean, he's just shown time. Like again, early in the year, he got targeted a lot because of his poor play in recent years. But he's shown him, hey, I'm back. Like, listen. I don't care how bad I was last year. This year, I'm a new man. Like, and I think he has 10, 11 passes defensed. And he also has kept it to, I believe it's 60 QBR when targeted, which is also very good considering how much he's been targeted. Obviously, some games have been better than others, but some matchups have been harder than others. I mean, he's gotten their big. I mean, I feel like it's real, especially in this most recent game against the Titans. Him and Rock working together to hold A.J. Brown, their best receiver, to one reception for 21 yards, and it was in the first quarter. After his catch, he had a drop and nothing for the rest of the game. Nothing. That's
He
big.
has 10 passes defensed, by the way. He has
Okay,
10 passes.
I thought it was 10.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about how AJ Brown just blew by, blown coverage. We're not going to talk about that. We're
No,
gonna keep
that's
that out of the
okay
conversation.
because that was one play, and then it was for the rest of the game lockdown.
It was one play. I'm just going to add though that it was extremely, extremely important for him to miss the ball.
Well, wait, was that Xavier on that coverage though, or was that Rock? I
Yeah.
feel like It was Xavier.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
But it was a one play. It was like one of the only plays this season where he's actually done that.
Right.
Or
There
at
were
least
some
had
in
that
like week
experience.
1 when he was still learning the defense that he had a couple blown
Yeah,
coverages.
week 1 there was a bit of worries of
But
what is he doing.
yeah, but then after that, dude, I mean, honestly,
Yeah, he's been absolutely great this season.
considering how bad he was last year and how
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly.
Like
Um,
I definitely see what you say, but just Alex, man.
I know that's what I know.
After nearly dying, not being again, he has one game back, so like it's definitely way too early to say anything
Right.
at this point. Because like I mean, if he comes back this week and then just throws
that's why I
six
can't say
picks,
Alex. I just
that's
feel
out
like
that's
it's too
out the
late.
window.
I feel like it's too late in the season for him.
I don't feel it's too late in the season. I just feel he needs to keep it up and follow that performance up, not with the same, but just good quality performances for the rest of the season. And I think he'll be able to lock that down.
Yeah, I think he needs to. I think he needs to lead the Redskins to the playoffs. Even if that might not be a big feat, but
I
again,
mean, hey,
I
man,
mean,
what is it?
I
It's
mean,
like
with that
3
team,
wins,
it's
3
kinda
wins,
is.
2 and 2.
but but
Yeah,
I
it's
would
3-3,
love to
2-2.
see. I would love to see Alex Smith not only like lead
Yeah,
them to the
man. I
playoffs,
think
but
it
also get
it
the
might
honors.
be. It could very well be possible. They play the Bengals next, which I would. Which I think
Tank
they.
Bowl.
Which at that point or at least I hope the Bengals win. But then they play the Cowboys. I hope it's a win, for the football team. But they also play the Steelers. They do play the Steelers, so there's an automatic loss right there.
Hey man, the Steelers. I have no idea what the Steelers are at this
No,
point, man.
I was just saying that just because they're
I
8-0.
know.
I do think that they, like I said last week, even though we didn't actually like record anything, I don't think the Steelers are truly 8-0.
No, I
Like,
think they could easily
I
be 5-3.
I swear they've gotten bailed out 2 weeks in a row. Too many close games where they're up way too high to be letting the scores come back. And like we saw last season with the Colts, if you play with fire, then you are going to
Get burned.
yeah, you're going to get burned. And I hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. Pittsburgh has 26 2016 or 26 16 26 21 28 21 38 29 38 7 27 24 28 24 24 19 and 36 10. So you can say two maybe 3 games are undisputable wins, but everything in here is less than a 10 or even 7-point differential in their games. And when the Colts were doing it last year, you would think 5-2 that they were good, that they were a good team, but they were also playing with it was like a 4 or 5 point differential, maybe even 3-point differential.
And it came
you
back to
saw
bite us.
yeah, exactly.
Steelers
You saw
were
like a 7-game losing streak for the Colts, and I think against Baltimore and the Colts, you know what I meant. I think Baltimore and the Colts and maybe a Cincinnati upset can really destroy their perfect season.
Also, let us not forget that the Steelers beat the Cowboys, but they were facing a 4th-string quarterback and had to make a end zone stop on the last play of the game to win that game.
Yeah.
4th-string quarterback.
Not a good look.
Fourth-string quarterback.
Not a good look for the best defense in the NFL.
They're not the best defense in the NFL either. I don't.
Colts are right now. I'll tell you.
6. Yeah,
Gang,
no, yeah. The Steelers are 6 in yards per game at 318, which that's decent, but it's not Colts good. They're way below 300, which 10 points or 10 yards a game doesn't seem like a lot, but like in the heat of the game, 10 yards a game or 10 yards in the game makes a big difference because that's a first down.
Right.
So
Colts are allowing 290 yards per game. They are allowing the least yards per game out of anybody in the NFL right now. Steelers are allowing 318.
What's it like, 3rd?
They are 6.
6. Okay.
I love talking about the Colts defense. defense. Love it.
Dude, I could talk about the Colts. We could have a whole episode about the
I
Colts
know
and their
you guys
defense.
started to talk about that.
But that's okay. We're gonna keep on going with these. I'm gonna list off my last. We won't get into the coach of the year. We all know it's Brian Flores. Let's talk about MVP, offensive player, and defensive player of the year. Okay, so here's my three. All right, defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett. Okay, offensive
Facts.
player of the year, Dalvin Cook, and
Facts.
then MVP, Kyler Murray.
Facts. I
All
agree with
right.
everything here.
Let's talk. All right.
I just wish we would have said Kyler Murray before this week, so we didn't seem like bandwagon because last game. But we're not gonna talk about that.
It's okay. It's okay. Let's be real. Danger Russell Wilson has thrown himself out of the club of the MVP race recently with the number of turnovers he's had.
10 picks this season.
Yep, and I don't care how many touchdowns you throw, if you can't be choking in that many games. And I understand
He's
that the
tied
Seahawks are
for
nothing
third.
without him.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got to give him some credit though. I mean, I don't think he's MVP. Not even. I don't. But I'm just saying you gotta give him some credit. He's literally the heart and soul and the driving force of this offense. And literally, if he's gone, I think they're not even any. I don't even know if they could be 500 without
No, I
Russell
think
Wilson.
they would be in the conversation for the first pick.
Exactly.
I agree, but he's
So,
also
because-
tied. He's
because-
tied for third for the most picks in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
More than Phillip.
Yeah, which is
Oh,
which is crazy because without Russell Wilson, I don't think they're third in the league with passing yards a game, and their rushing yards are absolutely garbage for having a
They
running
don't
back
have a
with Chris
single
Carson.
100-yard rusher this year.
Yeah, which you would think Chris Carson,
They don't have an
he's a
O-line
decent.
either.
Yeah, they don't have an O line. Chris Carson is actually a pretty good back, but him and Rashard Penny, they don't stay healthy. And
No.
you saw last year, both of them got hurt going into the playoffs
They
and
had to
barely
shun
did play.
Marshawn Lynch, bro. They had to bring in Marshawn. They had to bring in beast mode. That's how desperate they were for a running back.
Yeah, and the only reason they're staying in these games is they're first in points per game with 32.2, and that's
Yep.
attributed to Russell Wilson.
Definitely. We'll move on to the hottest of takes here in a bit. But let's to wrap up this real quick. I think it's Myles Garrett or Aaron Donald this year. Again, I think Myles Garrett will come out on top. He's leading the league in sacks with 9.5. He's got 4 forced fumbles. He's just been dominant, getting to the quarterback, doing his job. As long as he doesn't hit anyone over the head with a helmet again this year, I think he's got it in the bag.
Should be a yearly tradition.
I don't.
Oh.
No, he's got to do something bigger this year. He's got to step his game up. You know what I mean? He's got to take off their entire pads and jersey and crack him over the head with it. You got to step up your game, Myles. But nah. I think he's at this pace. He's my favorite. He's been the most dominant consistently. I mean, the man's just every single game he's a force, just an absolute force, absolute unit every game. You know what I'm saying? Aaron Donald, we expect it from him. Okay? It's Aaron
I
Donald.
think that's where he separates himself from Aaron Donald.
Yep.
Is Myles Garrett is so much more versatile in where he lines up. You can put him at an outside linebacker spot, and he's just as fast or faster. And you can put him in the interior just as faster than the best interior rushers. He's just so versatile. And I think on a couple occasions he does do a respectable job at coverage if you do put him out there, because sometimes you have weird coverages where you take an interior lineman and put him on, I don't know, where typically one of the outside linebackers zone would be. So 5 yards off the tight end, somewhere around there. I think he does at least a respectable enough job
So
to make that
Anthony,
noteworthy.
Yep,
Okay.
Ian, go.
I just wanted to say that Anthony Edwards just went number 1.
Hey, the
I like
Timberwolves
that.
did draft.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
They went-
They listen
they-
to me. They listen to me.
They waited until 0, 0, 0, 0.
Yeah.
The clock ended. and then they made the pick.
It'll be very interesting.
That's crazy.
We'll keep going through that as those picks come in. It'll be interesting to see if they trade him to someone or if they'll keep him on the roster. But I think they'll probably keep him.
Really hope they don't trade him.
Yeah,
Really hope
I don't know if we need him if we keep D'Angelo Russell, but that's a whole conversation for another day. I just wanted to wrap up just quick thing. I think we know Dalvin Cook right now is the best running back in the NFL. That's why he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year because running backs don't get to win MVP. It's a quarterback award. Let's be real. Unless you're Trevor Lawrence or 2012 Adrian Peterson.
Just seen a ghost orb go by Jaren's screen. I don't want to point that out. White fuzzies going across Jaren's screen. Play Phasmophobia.
I always knew I lived in a haunted house. But I think MVP, this is why Kyler Murray is being slept on, and I don't think he's being that slept on, especially after throwing that absolute bomb to
That's such
DeAndre
a difficult
Hopkins.
throw.
Yeah,
That is such
dude,
a with the amount of
crazy.
that literally has to be like a honest to God perfect pass ever. Like you create time. You don't even know where DeAndre Hopkins is.
You almost get
as
sacked.
soon as, you almost get sacked, and you have no idea where your receivers are anymore because you're too worried about not getting sacked. You run, I don't know, almost 40 yards to the left, and then on that, he's a right-handed thrower, so it's already hard enough to be
He's
running
falling
to the left.
to his left, throwing.
Falling 55 yards.
Yep.
And not only is it an absolutely immaculate, perfect throw, it's just as good of a catch because at that point you have to high point the ball perfectly because there's three guys around you. While there are three guys around you, Hopkins is 6'1", and everybody around him is 6 foot or smaller. And he also does have, I think, like a 4-inch vertical on everybody there at least, if not more. And so he high points the ball, and it's just such a great catch that it's too like it's not even a Madden play. It's so perfect.
So really quickly, just quick devil's advocate. I'm not gonna get into it, but just if you're someone who has the feeling that you want to be against Kyler Murray being MVP, Kyler Murray is not in the top 10 for the following stats: QB rating, adjusted QB rating, QBR, yards per game, touchdowns, total yards, and completion. No, he is barely in the top 10 for completion percentage, where he is 9th. So if you want to argue against him, that's your argument there. But the eye test is doing wonders for Kyler Murray.
It's like Lamar last year. It's just like Lamar last year, I'm telling you. We're sleeping. People aren't talking about him as what he's doing because we already watched Lamar do it last year. But you know what he's doing better than Lamar is passing the football. That's what he's doing better than Lamar. And he's running it just as well.
I will say with those stats like that, you can, when you hear 7th, 8th, 9th, or wherever these stats fall, especially with quarterbacks, which I know is pretty biased, even though I am one, but the stats and ranking can get severely misconstrued with
definitely.
numbers, because you can say somebody's 14th in completion percentage, but you're literally like a point away from being third.
Again, that's why I said this is devil's advocate. I'm all for Kyler Murray because there's definitely.
I got that. I'm just explaining that for people who may not know. So like arguing against Russell Wilson. So arguing against Russell Wilson like we were, Kyler Murray is 68.2 completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 7.6 yards average per throw,
which is good.
It's actually really good, especially third year in the NFL, fourth year. But you also
Kyler's second, isn't it?
This is his second year. He was just drafted last year. Time flies.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then you again, we're arguing with Russell Wilson mainly. 69.8.
Barely a difference.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, we're not gonna get into that.
But,
Let's move
we're not
on
gonna-
to.
But I'm just saying, Russell Wilson is at 69.8. So you're like within 5 throws of completion, barely more yards, like total yards, 8.4 a throw, and then 28 touchdowns and 10 interception. So you're right there. You're not too far off of what you would consider everybody's favorite for MVP. You're not that far off, even in the slightest.
think
You're right
he's,
there.
He's gonna keep
And
getting better.
There's games left to play,
Right.
and again, there's stuff that the stats just don't show you. There's
Mid-season
things that the
awards.
stats just don't show you.
Mid-season awards.